Be quick. Hello, world. This is Edward Bevilacqua, the editor of La Voce magazine and vice president of the Italian American Club. We have the great fortune today to be talking to Tito and Tiffany Tiberti, longtime Las Vegas, very, one of the big families, Italian families in Las Vegas. Thank you, Tito and Tiffany, for taking the time to talk to us. And I know that you're busy and have a lot of things to do, so let me just jump right in. And your family's from what part of Italy?
Northern Italy. My grandfather is from Signori, Italy, which is about 60 miles as the crow flies south of San Marino, Switzerland.
Okay.
My grandmother is from the famous cheese capital, Asiago, Italy, above Venice, below Austria.
Okay. Have you been there?
Yes, many times.
Okay. To the family in town?
Friends with all of them. Had our 40th wedding anniversary in Lake Garda with 40 of them. And,
Lake what?
Lake Garda.
Garda.
Lago di Garda.
Okay. All right. I haven't been there.
Yeah, right by Cervione and Desenzano. It's beautiful. It's one of the three big lakes.
Okay.
Of northern Italy.
I've been to Lake Maggiore.
Yeah, well, that's the middle one.
Okay.
You got Como, Maggiore, and then Lago di Garda.
Okay. Does it have an island in the middle?
No, there's a peninsula sticking out.
Sort of like.
Yeah.
Okay.
There is an island.
There's a small island.
There's a small. It cuts off.
It's just that one big house.
The Roman poet Catullus has a big home there. Ruins. Yeah.
Okay.
Right by
Now,
Cervione.
I just want to jump ahead because Tiffany, when you were in college, you spent time in Italy. Did you go to where your family's from?
Yes. I started when I was 15, before I was in college. I was on a European trip with my mother and another family friend of ours, and we went to see these relatives that they had met a few years before my parents. And they had children approximately my age.
Oh, so that's good.
At 15, I didn't. So I hung out with them for about 4 days and decided that I wanted to stay.
Different than Las Vegas, right?
Oh, really? So we called my dad, and through broken English and Italian, begged him to let me stay, and I did. So I stayed there with them for about 4 to 6 weeks.
Okay. And then you went back when you were in college?
Then I went home, yes. Then I went home, and then I went back when I was in college, and I was in a school program in Florence, but I did go up to see them. Right. I had, short train travels to see
Okay. And when's the last time you've gone?
There, as I said, for our 40th wedding anniversary 6 years ago.
Okay.
And we used to go almost every year, but this last recession kind of time, we just missed the last 6 years.
Sure.
We're ready to go back.
Okay. And so now let's go back to, what brought your family over here?
Well, my grandfather came over like 1896, and he was answered a handbill looking for coal miners for Colorado, south of Trinidad, right by Raton, New Mexico. And Colorado Fuel and Iron, CF&I, they had a mining camp there. Morley, Colorado is where my grandfather came to. And then my grandmother she was born in actually Hamburg, Germany in 1890, or she came over here in 1896, she was born before that, but she then came to the territory of New Mexico, which is pretty close to that, so that she eventually worked
up. So before statehood?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And then, so they're in the mining business.
And when the Depression came, they basically closed the mine down. It was a company store, company housing, so they had nowhere to go. So the oldest daughter, Kay Farindelli, was in nursing school in Detroit, so they went to Detroit because they didn't know what else to do.
Did you still have family there?
Yes.
Okay.
Quite a few in there. And then
and let's see, Tiffany went to school
in Cranbrook.
Right outside Detroit.
In Bloomfield Hills, Michigan. Cranbrook is called. It was a girls' school and a boys' school. Cranbrook and Kingswood, and they merged them about 10 years before she went there. So it was local children and boarding students.
But you never considered going to Detroit University, right?
No. 2 years in Detroit, the weather was enough.
All right. And so they went to Detroit, and then what happened?
Well, my dad's older brother had joined the Navy during that time. And he was the football player, and he was the tough guy. And so the Depression came, and he went in the Navy, and he was in Long Beach sending postcards with beaches and palm trees. And my grandfather didn't know what he was talking about, being from the hills of northern Italy.
Right.
Yeah. So my father was the more pushing one, and he talked my grandfather and the other uncle, Jim Tiberti, to go out to see Joe in Long Beach. And they took a train out there. And my grandfather wasn't stupid. He saw, Southern California come down through the Cajon Pass, and he said, "Whoa, So they bought a house in Rosemead, Colorado, right on the
Rosemead, California.
Yep.
Okay.
Right down by Pasadena and Alhambra.
Okay. Oh. Do you know the DeQuinos?
No, I do not.
Okay, they're in the wine business, but they live in that area.
Oh.
Okay, so and when were you born?
1945 in Las Vegas.
In Las Vegas. So then, how did your family come here?
Well, my father was in engineering, civil engineering at USC.
Okay.
And then went to Southern California.
So he's the first person in the history of your family to go to college?
Yes, he was. Actually, my aunt would dispute that she was in nursing school, and two of my aunts got nursing degrees, but I think it was a 2-year program.
Okay.
So he was the first, and he didn't get.
And the first at USC?
Yeah, for sure.
The first in a long line.
Right, there was 9 of us, and he didn't get to graduate because he had had an accident as a child in the mining camp, and he lost his left eye.
Oh.
So they didn't take him in the war, but then 2 years later, all of a sudden, they were working on the idea of training for Nellis Air Force Base, and the Corps of Engineers drafted him and hired him to become the second deputy to the chief engineer, who was in Los Angeles, to build the runways. And the beginnings of Nellis Air Force Base in 1940 or 41, he came, and there was about 8,000 people.
Okay.
So he met my mother, who was a nurse here, who came from Kansas, and I was born April 45, so I'll be 70 next week.
So what were your first memories of Las Vegas?
Well,
I mean, it was home. You didn't know anything different.
No, I knew there was 12,000 people when I was born, so probably what's my memory? 3, 4, 5. I remember visiting with a lot of relatives, and we had a small, nice neighborhood called Biltmore over on Main and Bonanza. It was one of the original first tracks. And remember going to work with my dad all the time in 1950. He started the construction company.
Okay.
I spent every Saturday with him over, and he created a thing called Bonanza Village.
So what did your dad do? What was
He was a general contractor building. He actually developed 40-acre plot into home sites.
Okay.
And he wasn't building houses much, he was developing. And he had a couple of partners. That was 1948. 49 and 50. He had some partners from this original Sierra Hotel. And it was called Wally, Camplin, and Tiberti. And they just said it was too boring and it was too slow for those guys. So they said, why don't you just take us out? So he started J.A. Tiberti Construction in 1950 and went into the general contracting business.
Okay.
After the war ended in 1945, he did some work into Wally, Camplin, and Tiberti. And then he started on his own in 1950.
Okay.
General contracting.
And so what did they mainly build?
Well, they built a lot of schools, towns. Where would the right place for an engineer in Las Vegas with 10,000 people, and all of a sudden there's 2 million. And so it was fortuitous, fortunate. So that was how he built a lot of banks, schools.
Okay, so mainly commercial, not residential.
No residential.
No residential. Okay.
Built a house in Rancho Circle. Built a house for Major Sweeney on Ashby Street. And built our house, finally a big house in 1957, over on 50. 3 houses he only built his lifetime.
Is there a history of construction in your family before?
No.
In Italy?
No, no.
Okay.
Actually, a couple of stonemasons up in northern Italy.
All right. So we've talked to a lot of guys. My grandfather was a home builder in the Bay Area. That's where I grew up, and they built about 500 homes a year because the right place at the right time.
Right.
And
the opposite was we built 3 in 65 years. So.
Well, but yeah, you did everything else.
Yeah.
And so, what was your first job working with your dad?
1958, I started 13 years old at the Tiberti Fence Company.
Okay.
John Sweet would pick me up at 5 in the morning, and I learned how to start working outside of the fence company. I could go into the construction company Saturdays before that, but actually going out on my own, one of the guys picked me up and would take me to work and bring me home. So that's where I started. Okay.
And when you would go to work with your dad on Saturday, what would you do?
Well, they were always stuffing the guys building stuff in the warehouse, in the yard, moving things around, estimating. So I was just hanging out. My mother, I'm the oldest of 6, so I guess she wanted me out of her hair.
Okay. And so
fun. I
clean up type stuff, or
Yeah.
did you play around drawing?
No, I mean, it was always, he was out asking me a couple of guys who always worked on Saturdays, always asking me to do this and do that. And
Sure.
It was just fun.
Okay. And what other values did you learn from your dad at that stage? Was your dad a hard worker?
Yeah, he was very clever and smart, thinking type guy. He always was figuring out stuff, and he worked hard, but he worked around the house. He did all the gardening and the mowing the grass. And I tell you one thing he taught me is they had in Colorado in the mining camp, they had a couple of chickens, and they had a pig, and they had a cow, and they milked the cows and made the cheese, and they made wine, and they always made their cream and butter and the cows, and then they always had a couple of pigs, and so he made me have rabbits, and we built fancy rabbit hutches, and we ended up with lots of rabbits. And then he showed me how to slaughter and kill the rabbits and skin them and cut them up and send the skins to Colorado to get money for them, and then I had to go door to door and sell the rabbits for rabbit meat. And I wasn't very good at that, but he made me do it. So eventually, it all became pretty second nature.
And it didn't bother you?
That didn't bother me.
Okay.
It did what he first, but then, he made me do it over.
So you didn't name the rabbits anything?
Well, I did at first, and then when I got to be about 30 of them, and he said, but he said, you're going to get over this. And, it was fine. Actually, it was good training.
Okay, and what lessons did you learn from your dad? Hard work?
Yeah, hard work.
You're saying it like, why are you even,
well,
that's an obvious question.
There's a thing that he probably, didn't skip over with my grandfather, but I think that it passed down, is that, J.A., my grandfather, said, what's the harm in being nice? He could never imagine some of the things that go on in the world that somebody could think in a negative, malicious way. And I think that he must have passed that to my dad. And then, it's kind of something that we say a lot, what's the harm in being nice?
Right.
And I think that I wanted to say maybe he's taught me to be congenial, but that's not it. It's more about there's no reason to be malicious. Maybe it comes from the Italian thing way back, show the other cheek from the, the Catholic religion, or maybe not.
Right.
It's something.
I have heard that quote attributed to you. I don't remember where, but I've heard that quote attributed to you. So that says a lot. That something that you say a lot comes back to me. Didn't even meet you before today.
Yeah.
That's kind of a
he always
representation.
He didn't like cussing. I'm not as good as he is at that. He is at that. But he always would say, what's the harm in being nice to anybody? It's hard to answer that in any other way.
Yeah.
It's easiest to do that. And he came across. He was a real gentle guy. He was firm. He wasn't the least bit naive or banal or just a smiley, goofy guy. But he was very, very congenial and nice. And he didn't lose his temper too much. The only time he lost his temper with me, I can say, is one time I was about 13 or 14, and we were working one summer. I was at a friend of mine would put to work, and I wanted to go to the pool with Bob Miller, Governor Miller. His dad ran the Riviera. They were having a bunch of guys over there swimming, and I wanted to go there. And I said something about him walking out to the warehouse, that that's not fair. Boy, he turned around and he said, don't ever use the word fair around me. Nothing is fair in this world. So just start walking. Where in the big book does it talk about fair? I don't know what big book he was talking about, but I sure dropped that subject. So every time I hear somebody say it's not fair,
you go back.
I go back. I can never forget where he told me it was.
Right back to that place.
Yeah, and you know what? Who is fair? You're lucky. You're healthy. This one has cancer. This one's smart. This one's not. You were born in Afghanistan. You're born in Las Vegas.
Right.
Nothing's fair. So you have to drop that comparison. It's not good.
Okay, so your dad sounds like he was a wise guy, not wise guy.
Right.
He was a wise man.
Yes.
And I get the sense that education was also important.
Well, yes, I never forget. He got me into Catholic school when St. Andrews was starting, and I told him I didn't want to go there, and he said, "Well, your mother's going to take you over there." And so my mother told the nun I didn't want to go there, and she said, "Why don't you?" And I said, "I want to stay with my friends." At the time it was Helen J. Stewart's School. They've since changed the name. And so then 2 years later, he said, "You're going to St. Joseph whether you like it or not, and I don't want to hear any excuses." So I could tell that was over with. He wanted me to go. Yeah. And then we moved over by Gorman High School in 1957 because he wanted. I'm the oldest of six, so he wanted us to be able to walk to St. Anne's and walk to Gorman. Smart. And there was no driving and all that.
Yeah.
And then he was insistent that we all go to college, and I think everybody but my one brother went to college and he graduated. He was big on that. He was a reader.
And you said you graduated from USC.
Yes.
But you started at San Jose State.
I started at San Jose State because I didn't fill out the applications and all that. In those days, there was no computers.
Yeah.
He wasn't one of those deals that did it for you. You had to do it yourself. And I just futzed around and didn't do it. So I drove up there, and I could see that by the semester I got 4 Ds and incomplete. He told me, "You can work in the defense company, join the military, or pick one, but I'm done paying for this." So I thought I better go down and look at USC. So Easter vacation, I drove down there my freshman year. A couple of friends were there, and I said, "Wow, I better hurry up and jump in here." So I had to go to night school to get in. That's where I met my wife was secretary to the dean of the business school, and I was trying to sign up for it. She said, you don't sign up for this. You have to earn your way in. Turns out she was living in the apartment below me, so my dad said this is an expensive way to get into business schools. You have to marry this girl, but he was right. He said you're going to chase her until she catches you.
I've heard that expression.
I never heard that before. I said, no, you don't know what you're talking about. He did.
Okay. And
she's the first one.
So let's see, you knew Governor Miller before college?
1955, I met him. He came out of Chicago, and his uncle lived next door. It was the old neighborhood I was telling you, Maine and Bonanza, Biltmore. And he came out with a cowboy hat, chaps, and a gun. And it was like the weirdest thing. I mean, that's what they thought the West was in Chicago.
Really?
Yeah. I thought, well, what the hell kind of... Right. But my mother wanted me to be nice and play with him. And then he came out the next summer, and then they actually moved out here, I think.
So was it a real gun?
No.
Oh, okay. Toy gun.
Toy gun, yeah.
Just checking.
Only in Las Vegas you have to ask that question.
Yeah, right.
And Chicago.
Yeah.
But so we got to know each other, and then we went to St. Anne's together, same class, and then we went to Gorman. And we became good friends, and we've traveled all over.
He went to Santa Clara.
He went to Santa Clara.
And you were at San Jose State.
San Jose State.
So you saw
a lot
at Santa Clara.
Yeah, a lot of more time there than at San Jose.
Okay. Yeah. So my father went to Santa Clara with Waxhaw.
Oh.
So a few years, I guess a number of years before that.
There was quite a few Las Vegas people have been there. I know Governor Miller, I think Jim Cashman III went there, and a bunch of other ones. It's a good school, great school.
Yeah. So how was your experience at USC? Or how you didn't want to go to USC?
I didn't want to go to USC. I just wanted to, I was the firstborn. I was a rebel. I didn't want to be around. Firstborn. Yes, I didn't want to.
Rebel like your dad?
Well, I don't know how much. Well, he probably was more than he say, but so I wanted to go far away. I also wanted to be. I wanted to go to film school. I wanted to be a director or producer or something. And at that time, of course, and still, USC is the best film school. My parents wanted me to go there because they went there, and a few uncles had gone there at this time. So, but I didn't want to go there. So I applied because it has the best film school. And I applied to some other schools across the country. And my mom, of course, is very persuasive. And she talked to me, if you want to go to film school, you have to go to USC. It's the best. And it's in Hollywood. So it's sort of like the choices you were given at school.
Yeah.
Right.
After a while,
very little choice, very small.
You narrow it down as you get closer.
Yeah.
I probably could have
ultimately,
gone.
it's this or don't go.
I could have gone somewhere else. She was right. If I wanted to do film school, why would you not go to USC and be in LA and in Hollywood? Turns out that I did not go into the film school the first year, and then I decided not to do that. So
wow.
I went.
Okay.
So I didn't really follow what I wanted to do.
And when you leave, so both of you, your frame of reference growing up is Las Vegas, the climate here. When you go to other places, do you find yourself comparing it to here?
Yes.
Climate-wise?
Yeah, like when you get off the plane, it's, oh wow, this is humid, or this is...
Oh yeah.
But more than anything, every place I go, I want to buy a home there.
Oh.
I've gone a million places, and they're great.
So you have a million homes?
No, I have none. I only have one because I'm trying to discipline myself. But I go, I love the Bay Area. I spend a lot of time there. Pleasanton, where you're from, is great.
Yeah.
Lafayette, St. Mary's up there.
Oh yeah, sure.
What's Moraga?
It's in Moraga.
Right, but then you go to Carmel, it's beautiful. You go to Santa Barbara, it's beautiful. You go to Laguna Beach, you go to Newport Beach, you go to Beverly Hills. You go to.
So it's hard to choose.
Yeah, and so you go to all over kind of places. It's great. But then everything I did at the business school at USC, I applied to Tiberti Construction and the Tiberti Fins Company and the Tiberti Real Estate. So I had some reason to build on everything I was doing in school as to what I wanted to come back here and try to do. And it was growing and it was exciting. Where would you have, you have to rat pack to Sands. But I mean, it was like, why would I want to go anywhere else compared to everybody, everywhere I'd travel, they say, you're from Las Vegas, where did you go to school? I said, no, high school. They have schools there. Well, what do you think? I mean, they still, to this day, even though we got 2 million people, it's shocking with the 1950s and 60s. But where'd you go to school? Where do you live?
Yeah.
We had a very normal, we went to church every Sunday, went to my grandmother's house, we had polenta. We had every Sunday. It was an all-day affair at my aunt and uncle's. My dad had built these duplexes where they had a courtyard in the middle. My grandmother, my uncle, my aunt, my cousin, and they had 2 rentals at the Arundel, so it was right by the church, St. Bridget's. So every Sunday we spent all day there. We used to go up to Mount Charleston in the summertime, pick pine nuts, pinions in those days, called them pinions, and we'd have big pots of polenta cooking and all kinds of sausage and different white fish. And so it was just an all-day affair. That's what we did every Sunday from the time I can remember. Was with my grandmother, my aunts.
Very traditional.
Yes.
Now, Isn't there a field, Tiberti Field at Gorman?
No, there's the Tiberti Commons.
Okay.
It's the lunch center and meeting place at Bishop
Who
Norman's.
has the
baseball field?
Not the baseball field, the lacrosse field.
Oh, I don't know. I'm not sure. You know, the football.
It might be Fertitta.
Fertitta has the football field.
Okay.
Fertitta
This
Stadium.
is I think the practice football field, but it's the
Yes.
lacrosse field.
Yes, they just built that about a year or two ago. I'm not sure.
Yeah, my daughter plays lacrosse in high school at Coronado, and so you go to that field, and it's like, this is like, I mean, the whole place is like a college, a university.
Well, Tiberti Construction built the school, and that was, I really spent a lot of time personally there. I really put my heart and soul into it. It's the only Catholic school in Las Vegas, and we'd been in Maryland Parkway for so long, and it was just outdated, small. We never
have
had
a number of cousins. I have a niece that's a math teacher.
Who's that?
Marissa Delgado.
Oh, Delgado?
Yeah, used to be Bevilacqua.
Okay.
She went there, and I had 7 nieces and nephews go through the
Back to USC, there's 9 of us, counting my dad who did get to graduate, but there's 4 of us boys in our family, and 3 of us graduated from there, and Tiffany and some other nieces and nephews. So there's 9 of us, but at Gorman, we've all been to Gorman, maybe 30 of us.
Wow.
It was, when I was at Gorman playing football and stuff, there was everything at the gym. We were gypsies. We didn't have a field to play on.
Really?
So it turns out with this school up here, I put my heart and soul into developing. It's a great campus. It should last a long time.
Oh, yeah. It's like a college campus.
It's like a junior college or something, or a real college.
Yeah.
When you walk onto it, it's really well done. Fertitta's have put in that new athletic training center, a bunch of additions to it. So it's been terrific.
So my hunch is you were very involved in the design.
Not the design as much as all the functionality. Well, yeah, then I got really involved in it because everybody else I found out was smoke and mirrors. They all disappeared. It was just, man, the now new president, John Kilduff. We on a lot of days, where are the people that were getting us into this?
It's usually what happens.
Yes,
right?
yeah.
Everybody has enthusiasm. Everybody wants to eat the cake, but when it comes to making
I'm not blaming anybody. It's just how life is. And a lot of days it was just John and I there and making a lot of decisions. We just
paid off.
Yeah, he's a great. He's a CPA, and then he's a developer also, so we had a lot of camaraderie to how to fix things to make it where the maintenance would be correct, do things that didn't show up. But the architect were great. Kitchen Garland was the architect.
I talked to a lot of people who not a lot who grew up here, but a number of people who grew up, and they said, the streets just ended, right?
Well, we moved over by Maryland Parkway, San Francisco Street, which is now Sahara. It's called San Francisco these days. I mean, when you head south on Maryland Parkway, Sunrise Hospital was just being built. It was a little 2-story cinder block building. And then the university, UNLV, started. It was just 1 or 2 little buildings at the end of a double lane kind of going out over those washes.
But it just ended, right?
Yeah, and Bond Road is where Tropicana is now. They had a couple of
When was the city laid out like that?
One thing we do have is good infrastructure here, and there was some, the regional people.
One of the many good things we have.
Yeah, with a lot of great things with it, but it's laid out on a very grid line. You take the section lines. Tropicana is a section line, Flamingo's a section line, and then you have Decatur, Valley View, Durango, etc. So they're 1 mile squares, and that's the way we were lucky that we do it. So we don't have a lot of oddballs.
When was that?
I think
before
that was,
you were
I think it was all happening in the 40s, 30s, 40s,
Okay. Some
20s.
people had foresight.
Yes, they did.
And they just laid it out. Now everything they keep like sunset. It just keeps
they're
getting longer
and they're
longer.
actually 100-foot right-of-ways. So you have double left turn lanes where you have to put that in. When you go to Los Angeles, they were smaller streets. Philadelphia, they're very small because they didn't have to start very small. We had these futurists that laid out these section lines, and in the right-of-ways they set aside were 100 feet. So you have these major every mile. You've got Decatur, Flamingo, Sahara, Charleston.
Speaking of that, are you familiar with country construction?
Yes.
Okay.
We use them a lot.
Okay, so my brother Bill and his partner bought it after.
What was Bill? Was it Bill?
Bill Bevilacqua.
No, but Country's first.
Yeah, the guy.
Yeah. Very good guy, and he really knew his business, and he was. We did a lot of work for the water district, building reservoirs and pump stations.
Okay.
And Country did a lot of the subcontractor work, piping, and other kind of work like that. They were very good subcontractors.
Yeah. Well, I hear a lot of people. Now there's so much traffic here, like on Eastern. They're doing work on Eastern. They had it shut down to 1 lane.
We're going to have to do more of that because it's been like an 8 or 10 year hiatus because of the economy, and the roads are really heavily traveled. Our population's picking up, and if we didn't have this beltway, we'd really be in trouble.
Yeah.
It's the jugular vein of the whole city, the beltway, and then all the section line feeders that you now can get off on, Jones and Rainbow and Flamingo and all
Well,
those.
that, you know, coming from Southern California or even Northern California, traffic is a big deal.
Big deal.
Traffic here, people complain about traffic here, but it is really nice.
If you want a conversion to your religion, just go down to Southern California or go to Denver, or go to Seattle or some of the other cities for 2 days of driving around, come back and you say, I'm not complaining about the traffic.
Exactly.
I mean, we can't forget about it, but go to any other city and you'll see how good this is.
Yeah, and you know, I think that, you know, to your point about the grid pattern here, it's easy to figure out, well, where are you? What is that near?
It's the right way to do it. It's well thought out, and luckily we have people who did that. It used to be a funny saying in town when I was in that the Jewish people owned the town, the Mormons ran the town, and the Catholics lived here. And I think there's a lot to that the Mormons really were well thought out and ran it. They were civic minded and did a good job back in the 20s and 30s and 40s. And the civil engineering and all that was a very honest government. And did a very good job of fighting to get the future and maintaining those. And so that's one reason these things make a lot of sense.
Okay. Well, we've gone way over the time that you gave me to do this. It's been a lot of fun. One last question for both of you. Sauce or gravy?
Sauce.
Okay, good. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Tito and Tiffany. It's been great. On behalf of the Italian American Club, Voce and Ciao Tutti, we appreciate everything that you do for the community, especially the Italian American community in town. You know, it's just a great family, and everybody knows of it and is appreciative. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.